for such a long time with that news conference. Really a remarkable afternoon we've already had. My man Danny Knowles is with the Knowles Group. Let me get that all back on track, man. Danny is there for you in the up days, in the down days when it comes to your investing in the stock markets. And that's sort of how they do things, as opposed to me. I'm a total amateur, but I watch the numbers come in every day. There are headlines associated with that in the news. Sometimes the news drive those daily numbers, and so I get a little obsessed with it because it's a little bit of a barometer of things that are going on, especially in this situation. But Danny and his team have a broader view. They have a longer, more sophisticated view of how markets work. And those are the sober people you want in charge of your financial decisions with your money, that you just do. They've seen it all. They know how far back these numbers go. If you know where things were in the past and where they are today, you can predict the future in some ways, or where the trajectory is. And that may be an oversimplification, but that's what they do. They apply all these statistics and learning and algorithms and analysis to how the market is trending and keep you on the trend line. That trend line tends to grow even through super down days and super up days. And that's how you grow your money smartly and with a great return. Even if you have your own retirement money now, you've already retired and you've got your funds, but you'd like a little bit of a raise, they've got programs to position you better for that too. Or the opposite end is you're starting out from the beginning, and you just got to get going because you've had some setbacks in life and you're trying to start over. They can handle that too. It is Danny Knowles, my lifelong friend. We grew up together, and I'm just proud of his success and how hard he's worked, and those fine young men that he raised that are in the firm with him now. They've learned from the best. It's the Knowles Group, Knowles, the KnowlesGroup.com, the KnowlesGroup.com. Man, where do I start? Let me start with the weather. That tends to be a thing I do here on the show when it's inclement and it's incoming, just to give you a little deeper explanation than our quick weather forecast that we get sometimes. We got several rounds of potential severe weather coming through. One is tomorrow night. That'll go through the early morning hours. We need the rain. And the good news on that front is some of the long-term models. I saw one today that had us getting 9.5 inches of rain between now and the first week or so of May. Those models aren't super accurate, and they're going to be all over the place, but it's a good, optimistic potential when you look at the fact that we're in a moderate drought right around the Birmingham metro and much more elevated and extreme in the rest of the state. It's kind of strange that north of us and south of us here in the metro have a worse drought situation, but we're still in a no burn situation, a moderate drought. We saw the fires yesterday over in Georgia. They're still working on a lot of those. I saw a video today where there was a roadside fire up around Coleman on 65. Those things can easily happen with trucks and cars going up and down the road. People are idiots and throwing out cigarettes or chains dragging, things like that could spark up trouble. Looks like they had it under control. So we got to be super careful until we get this rain in here tomorrow night. Side note, though, I also saw a story today. Remember the Malibu fires a while back? Has that been 2 years? One of the big problems they had out in California were these reservoirs that were completely empty. When they went, these reservoirs that are designed for additional water sources and pressure during a fire event were empty during that big fire. They're empty again. Somebody took an aerial shot of one the other day, completely empty. They are spending money on drug addiction and homelessness and illegal immigrants and still neglecting their infrastructure out there in that state. It is amazing. If government is not forced to learn its lessons, it's not going to learn its lessons. And California's not holding this stuff accountable. I guess they're too busy out there running around pointing fingers at Trump every day to look at their own problems. Speaking of their own problems, let me shift to the Somalian of the day. That would be Ilhan Omar. She is in deep kimchi. I mean, it's getting worse for her back in Minnesota. Tom, back in the day, the old adage, especially in the 80s, was all politics is local. And that just means that, man, when it comes down to it, it's people at home that count when it comes to these issues. And so people in Minnesota are flaming pissed at the money that she and her fellow Somalians may have stolen from other people in Minnesota. And so it's not just critics of Democrats wanting to catch another Democrat stealing stuff. There's plenty of that to go around. I mean, we had Swalwell all week last week. We got the money grubbers in Congress being tossed out. And now this thing is going home to her. So she decided wasn't going to show up at a hearing to dig into this that was being held in Minnesota by a Minnesota panel. They're looking into a $250 million scam that they believe she was perhaps even orchestrating. She did the weird moves this week where suddenly she claimed $30 million in wealth on a political form for a fake winery that didn't exist. And within a few days, within 9 days, both amended her political form and then dissolved the winery. Their excuse is they're blaming it on an accountant, that the accountant didn't write off some expenses to their business and it changed their net worth by $30 million. Let me tell you how snot bubble laughable that is. There's no way you're worth $100,000 and you somehow would have had $30 million in income and you had 29 million and $900,000 in losses on a fake winery. I mean, you don't have to be a CPA to follow that math. Somebody along that food chain was lying. She either, one theory is maybe she overestimated her wealth because of a fraudulent loan scam. The truth is they were probably laundering money, and the whole scheme, as we have learned how they do it, all of these scam artists out in California and Minnesota and the rest, are you just set up a fake business anywhere you can get legitimate credentials and nobody checks it. And so from there, when you got a tax ID number and an address, you can have 300 businesses at one address and nobody checks. It's stunning the kind of businesses that were actual businesses that were also being used for this scam purpose. So she's in a lot of political trouble and she's in a lot of legal trouble for she and her husband. And I think her husband, by the way, just like the Republicans do, they get their spouses hooked up. They run the money operation while the member goes and serves in the body. Happens all the time. We've got it going on right here in Alabama. So, you put your spouse in charge, and her husband was probably the one actually running the money. She just had the connections. The whole place was a giant scam. There's serious talk tonight, and there would be howling at the moon, but I'm 1,000% for it, of stripping her of her citizenship and deporting her ass. We can Allah Akbar her butt back to Somalia. I hate that commercial, by the way, and I'm about to make fun of it. Yeah, I think they should. I mean, there's a list of people that are being denaturalized and their citizenship removed that came out the other day. It's 350 people for similar stuff. You come here through the charity of this nation. We allow you to become a citizen. You get involved in our politics, and then you just breathe fire and hate and steal from us. You don't need to be here. She should be out before some of these hardworking folks that are just trying to work in the back of a restaurant and maybe spread a little pine straw for a living to feed their family. They are much more sympathetic than this vitriolic, angry woman. I hope they nail her and send her home. This is not her home. It isn't. And she and that whole scam they've got going in Minneapolis, it's amazing. I've always wondered, and I said it over and over again, why would a bunch of people from that part of the world, from that climate, want to go to cold-ass, freezing, nasty, cold Minneapolis? I got your answer. Money. You get one or two families running the scam. They invite their cousins to come run the scam. Everybody learns about the scam. They all get in on the scam. Everybody buys a parka because there's money to be made, and that's exactly what drew that population of people. Now, there are other countries involved in other scams. Today, we had a bust of some Chinese. We had a bust of a bunch of drug cartel members and 43 drug sort of kingpin mafia types around the LA area were rounded up, or maybe it was San Diego. They're out in California on the coast, rounded up and arrested. Murder, extortion, kidnapping, bribery, all of these mafia type things. Again, illegals that the previous administrations have been dutifully letting into this country. It's just stunning. So a lot of that stuff's in the news today. By the way, Omar dodging questions, won't answer reporters' questions, doing a bunch of shady stuff to try to cover her tracks. And truthfully, she is not capable of avoiding this too much longer. She's not sophisticated enough to undo the things that are already on the record about the scam she and her husband were running and they are 100% in the spotlight. I don't know that she would step down from Congress. The only thing insulating her right now from accountability is hanging in there in Congress. And so you saw that McCormick woman this week that was forced out. You saw Swalwell last week. Corey Mills is next. He's a Republican. But these people eventually can be forced out rather than thrown out. But it's high time we had accountability on these things. It's absolutely disgusting. All right, a couple other things. Let me. What time is it? Let me get on this AG race. I'm so tired of it. And a friend of ours just commented that they don't even live here. They're down in the South Alabama area. Just commented on this as well. We've got this AG race going, and everybody knows. I'm fully disclosed. I've known Jay Mitchell for years. He was part of a case, civil case that we were all involved in here at the station, a frivolous lawsuit, but and we of course won the thing and beat it. But I got to know Jay really well, and I'd known him before that through political circles and whatnot. And I like him. I really do like him. And I don't know Catherine Robinson whatsoever. We'll probably have her in studio with the Senate candidates in the next week or two. All of them have asked to get on, and I've just not been able to get it all laid out. But the ad campaigns, they've gone negative, and it's the it's even more negative than the Senate race. And as the Senate race seems to be tightening up, I think that's going to start blowing up and with some nasty accusations before you know it. But both of these candidates are taking things out of context, in my opinion, based on what I know of these cases, and attacking each other in ways that I don't think are clear. And it's what's wrong with our politics. For example, I'll start with the Catherine Robinson accusations. Again, I don't know her, but the attack from Mitchell is that her office punished a police officer that was involved in shooting someone and was soft on the criminal and hard on the cop and sent the cop to prison. And that's an oversimplification. It's a complex case. I've been reading about it today. 1819's got a really good explanation of this case up this afternoon if y'all want to go and find it and read it. I think it was Craig Monger over there that wrote this. He does a good job. But to simplify it for the radio, there was a conviction of a cop down in Montgomery that shot someone in an apprehension. The guy was trying to hit him, I think, with a shovel, and he dumped a mag on him and was convicted. And it was during that time when we were spinning up all this cop hate, and there were juries and prosecutors trying to look aggressive toward police. And a lot of people believe he was unfairly convicted to begin with. So on appeal, he appealed his case. He continued to lose appeals and wound up in prison. At some point, there was a Supreme Court ruling that allowed him, I think it's called a Rule 32 exception to the conviction, and to get some relief either by having a new trial or having a variation of what happened. So the Supreme Court stepped in and gave him some relief, this officer. And then the Attorney General's office got involved and did a plea deal with him to get him out of prison, to get him sprung. He got time served, pled down the charges, and got on with his life, I suppose. But he still had to plead guilty to a felony. Now, the charge from Jay Mitchell is that the AG's office was soft on that case. I've got cop friends that alerted me to this and said, no, that wasn't the case at all. They went to bat for him and got him out of prison, which was a dangerous place for him to be. And it's sort of splitting hairs. Mitchell says that the AG's office could have been more aggressive during the appeals process in helping get this conviction set aside. Steve Marshall and Catherine Robinson's office says, no, our job, we have to defend the conviction through the appellate process by statute. And I'm not sure. I'm not the attorney. I don't know the canons about that. But my man Jay Mitchell says, look, they should have taken a more aggressive approach to help this guy before he got sent to prison. So it's not completely pure. Their office, and that's been the big negative thing against Robinson and her office. That office, these can get into gray areas sometimes, and to make these accusations without full context is one thing. I'm giving y'all context so you can judge for yourself with those ads. My biggest problem with my man Jay right now is that stupid radio ad. He needs to pull that ad down. That thing is costing him votes. I'll Akbar your butt back to wherever is not. It's the dumbest line of the political season. Somebody please, I know Jay's mom listens, let Jay know some free campaign advice. Change that ad. You got terrible consultants. Whoever wrote that, that's terrible. Okay, now Catherine Robinson. Some group associated with her campaign is attacking Jay Mitchell over the IVF ruling. And boy, what a complex ruling that became. That became a national hot potato, and it was completely unfair to the genesis and the true intent of the ruling. And again, not to talk over everybody's heads and to try to put this down there where we can all get to it. Let's talk about that case. The ruling, we had a case of an IVF clinic where a crazy woman went in down in Mobile and broke into the clinic and destroyed some embryos, some fertilized embryos. The family sued the clinic. The question became, can you sue the clinic? Are those embryos of value? Is there loss if frozen eggs and embryos are destroyed? The ruling came out, and I think Rich Mitchell might have written the actual ruling, and the ruling was to defend life. It was a pro-life ruling that said, yes, they have value. These are fertilized embryos, I suppose you would call them, and they had value to the parents. And so, yes, the clinics have liability if something were to go wrong in these clinics. Well, naturally, it's a very pro-child lawyer ruling, but a ruling nonetheless on the side of the life that was created in those labs. That hit a lot of people the wrong way, people that eventually choose to have those destroyed. But it's the parent's choice, I guess, at that stage. The questions about when does life begin, the technology that is a miracle for some of these parents. But the clinics suddenly saw a massive liability if something were to go wrong, and it threatened to put them all out of business because there was a lack of clarity. So the legislature had to move and create some liability shields using the law. And then we were in the middle of an election year, and Republicans were getting beat over the head unfairly by this accusation that somehow this was hostile toward people that sought IVF. It was not against IVF. It did not, there was no ruling to shut the IVF clinics down. It just created a liability that the IVF clinics didn't know was going to be there, and it created trouble in the industry, for sure. That was the fallout of it, but that was not the intent of it. But unfairly, all the Republicans had to get on their back heels and come out defensively, all of them. I mean, all of them, our senators, our governor, everybody. Wow, I am for IVF, and aren't we all? I mean, it's a miracle of technology, and there are a lot of beautiful kids running around from that. But it was quirky. It was quirky and weird, and just like this conviction of this cop, there's a lot of gray area there as to what that case was about. But because they think we're stupid, and they think we're not paying attention, and we'll just believe these talking points and these researched phrases, they'll go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads, for example, in this case against Jay Mitchell, accusing him of creating a ruling to forcibly shut down IVF clinics because somehow he's anti-family and doesn't love children. It's completely unfair. You can't do nuance in a 30-second ad. And I'm telling y'all, this is why we get such disgusting people in politics. You get a bunch of wealthy folks that put their money behind dishonest campaigns, and then people get attacked unfairly, and it's hard to defend themselves. And by the time it's all over, we go to the polls to choose the people we hate less. We go there to choose the one we like, we hate the least, not somebody we're actually for in a lot of cases. And so it's just gotten disgusting, and we've still got weeks of this stuff. It's probably in your mailbox. But there's my take on that race. It's getting funky. Now, I know there's another lady running, and I don't know where she is in the polls, and I don't mean to leave her out. Casey, I think her name is. Not trying to be dismissive, but it's these two front runners that are really knocking heads in that race. And there's a little bit of clarity for you as we roll along. All right, let's do the break. Man, I talked way too long, especially considering I'm so far behind with the Trump news conference. Crocker Moving Services bringing you the show this hour. Eric Crocker and the whole team ready to help you do a move, whether you got a big fat move and you're moving across the country, or a smaller project where you're just you're not going that far. You just need a couple of hours and some strong backs. They can scale their services to either one. Eric's a great guy, total patriot. His Marine Corps training makes him a perfect mover. He's got the perfect company for his skill set. He's going to do it right, do the logistics, do it efficiently, take good care of your stuff, and do it honorably. That's who you want moving your things. CrockerMovingServices.com, CrockerMovingServices.com. Back here in a minute. Man, All American Metals is ready to help you with your building projects. If you want to grow or expand or build your first metal building, they're ready to help you out, man. I love mine. I'm doing the show out of there right now. Built my own little home studio. It's kind of my home office where I do a lot of my work. Have my friends over to pick music every now and then. We host events in this thing. I store some of my man toys in this thing, and it's been great to keep everything dried in and secure. You will love having this kind of expansion on your property if you've got room for it. Maybe it's commercial, and of course, beyond pole barns and residential barn dominiums, All American does, of course, big commercial projects, and that can be warehousing or retail build outs or mini stores. They do all of it. Totally integrated, the whole process from design to delivery. Great guys. They've been walking steel since the 1960s. Reach out to them, y'all. They're local, they're custom, their turnaround is quicker, and their prices are better. Allamericanmetals.com, aa-metal.com, aa-metal.com. Back here in just a minute. All right, Joe, let's do this thing again. Southern Skies Dermatology, ready to help you rid yourself of skin cancer. You may not have skin cancer. The truth is, we don't know. Sometimes we'll see something, something will appear, and it'll freak us out. They're there for you for that. They'll give you some calm if it's nothing. Sometimes you've got something that's completely dangerous. Melanoma is not as easy to spot as you would think, and maybe it's even in a place you can't see all the time in your hairline. People have had melanoma on their feet and in places, maybe on your back, and you just can't see it. This is why we need to all get checked. We all need a baseline. Even if you feel like you're healthy and you haven't done a lot of sunburning, we all kind of need to know where we stand. Some of us will have to go back more than others, some not at all for a long time. And because all they do is skin cancer, they can assess that for you at Southern Skies and just take care of you. Take care of yourself. Somebody loves you enough to get this done. I know it's not a sexy topic, and we get a lot of pressure to do prostate checks and breast exams and all this stuff. Put this on your list, though. We're all vulnerable to this in different ways. Southern Skies Dermatology, great locations all over town. A new location coming sometime this year on the 280 corridor. I'm excited about that one because that's where I'll go see Dr. Mario whenever I do my visits. And you guys make that appointment and thank me later, especially if they find something that saves your life. I get comments like that all the time. Met a guy last time I was there in the lobby. Told me that story. His name was Mike. Actually, the time before last. He said, man, he goes, I wouldn't have thought twice about coming to get checked. And they found a melanoma on his ankle. How about that? SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. All right, I'm going to get to the phones. But before I do that, I needed to get into something because with the war going on and gratuitous stuff in the headlines and, salacious scandals, that kind of feeds the news cycle. A huge event happened yesterday I think could affect more of you than you realize. And just like today's pharmaceutical ruling, and they had the drug company in there that's doing this miracle drug, and Trump doing things to help both the industry and consumers be able to afford these amazing drugs. We had a press conference yesterday. I didn't see it get any headlines, but the HUD and the Trump administration came out and pretty much said, and the Federal Housing Finance Agency director, a guy named Bill Pulte, and the HUD secretary, Scott Turner, they came out and announced that Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac are going to now start using another scoring system to assist people, particularly first-time buyers, in getting a home that breaks up the monopoly that FICO has had for all these years. Let me see if I can break this into English too, because if you haven't been through a lending process of late, you kind of forget how all this works. But the FICO score, that acronym, has choked people off from home ownership because a lot of people believe it's an unfair standard. And it doesn't take into account some of the things that could show credit worthiness. And it's too strict, and the formula is abusive. It's hard to get your own information. You can have negative stuff on there. I just went through this recently that isn't correct. Old things that need to be corrected, but you'd have no idea until you go and apply, and then you're behind the eight ball to fix it. It's really a ridiculous system in the age of modern technology. But there's another scoring system out there. The FHA and Freddie Mac and all those underwriting agencies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they do about 70% of the home loans in this country, by the way. You get your loan basically because they back your loan with the bank. It's some assurance that it gives you better security of securing the loan because you've got a backer, right? Again, I'm using very, very basic language. I'm trying not to be an accountant about it. But there's a scoring system called Vantage Score, and it's owned by Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are the rivals to the FICO score model. And Vantage Score takes into account how you pay your bills and rent payments, which aren't considered or kept record of with the other scoring systems. So there are a lot of people that if you've not gone out and had credit card bills where you can prove credit worthiness, or if you paid your rent on time your whole life and you always pay your power bill and you've got all these electronic withdrawals from your bank so you're not late, and you've been good with all your obligations, some people that have, if you're in the rental market, you can't get out of it because you don't have the other stuff that FICO score requires. Or again, the information gets convoluted and holds you back. So this is going to change a lot of stuff. The Vantage score would open up opportunities for people. Some folks think it's a much better scoring system, and it breaks up the FICO monopoly. They've now got a rival. They're going to have to look at their own methodologies and become fairer to people. Again, that they have just dominated for 30-something years in the U.S. credit markets. Their stock dropped immediately. It's going to rattle the markets for a while. But it's just lending regulations that could be more favorable to people. Particularly, I think it affects first-time buyers more than current homeowners, only because your current homeowner, you've got a mortgage to point to prove that you've paid your mortgage. But if you've never been able to establish that kind of credit, the FICO system's completely unfair. I thought it was interesting. I heard part of the news conference during the course of my day, but I didn't really absorb the impact or even talk about it yesterday. And I was doing some reading on it today and thought, man, we need to talk about that because, again, that's the stuff, just like the Maha stuff. It's not the sexiest topic. A lot of administrations just kick those cans down the road. They pretend to care and don't really functionally do anything to make change in our systems of government. And Donald Trump, for better or worse, is a change agent. He is flipping everything upside down because our government's become unresponsive and irresponsible and abusive and irrelevant in some ways to its core mission. And it's little things like this and the pharmaceutical stuff that eventually improve real lives of real people. I know it's fun to watch NASA go around the moon, and it's fun to watch Eric Swalwell get caught in a sex scandal, but this stuff's more important. This stuff will affect more people in this audience over the next 2 or 3 years than anything I've talked about today, except for eventually your gas prices coming down, and we're going to enjoy that. All right, let's get back on the phones. I told y'all phone calls, so let's do it. John is in Coleman. What's up, John?
Hey, I want to talk about Jay Mitchell wrote an editorial in Yellowhammer News a week ago or so. Yeah. And what he wants to do is give qualified immunity to police that shoot people. And he brought up a case in Decatur, and I don't know whether the cop was guilty or not. I watched the video, and he unloaded on a guy and involved somebody, tow truck driver that was there to
yeah, that case was kind of infamous for a while. A car, he was repossessing a car.
And the homeowner came out with a gun.
Yep.
And the tow truck driver called the police and everything, but they've been through the court system with it, and the other police that were there, the courts determined that they weren't at fault because they were on duty. But this one cop, he unloaded on that guy. And so Marquette, I think, is the guy's name. And so they've determined that he needs to stand trial, and it's in September. Jay Mitchell doesn't agree with that and says that police should get qualified immunity, and that he wants to have like a committee of policemen that determine whether police should be held accountable or not. And I just think that's wrong. Why police should be held to the same standard or even a higher standard than you or I, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't read Jay's piece on that. I do remember vaguely that case was much more electric up around Decatur and in North Alabama than here. We didn't follow it as closely as a case. Just to pick it apart a little bit without having read the piece and listen to Jay's reasoning on it. First, attorney generals can't just wave a wand and do that. Now, if he were to win, he could go to the legislature and try to push for them to create a qualified immunity. This is a legislative matter is what I'm saying. But as AG, he would be the voice of that issue. By default, I tend to want to give cops all the leeway we can. It's a difficult job. Their life's on the line. Society's getting worse by the day, and they're dealing with a lot of thugs and then we've been very unfair to policing since the year 2020, but it depends on how we set it up. As you said, professional police want a standard. They want to be held to a high standard But at the same time, sometimes if you've got the problem I have today is we've got activist district attorneys trying to make names for themselves, going after police for political reasons. And I can name cases all over the country. I honestly don't believe the officer, I forget the guy's name, the guy that they accused of killing George Floyd should not be in prison. That was a ramped up, trumped up case.
100%.
It's a completely stupid case. And so they can get away with it. But I don't want police being trigger happy either and not thinking there is some accountability if they are overtly criminal in the way they're handling themselves with that badge and the authority that we give them. It is a balancing act for sure. I'll look the piece up though. I want to read it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, and I listen to you every day.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and here's what I like about the debate, though, as opposed to my criticism of the AG candidates just a little while ago. That's a legitimate policy area that candidates can debate in public, that we can all get around a table and decide what's best, because there are sufficient arguments on both sides to make it an interesting topic of our time, and maybe it's something worth pursuing if you're the attorney general. Gratuitous, mischaracterized, slanderous accusations paid for by wealthy people that just want to control the system are not the best way for us to decide who to support. And so it really bothers me that, and politicians do it all the time in both parties. They count on the basic lack of civic education and knowledge of the average voter and charge them up with emotions and mischaracterize. And I've been part of campaigns that had this come against us. And to be fair, I've probably done it too. When I was professionally involved in that business, if you find a seed of doubt, you can plan about your opponent. It's how politics works. But you know what? It's also one of the things that drove me away from that business. It's not honest. And if we don't have honest campaigns and honest discussion, we're not going to have an honest government. And it's kind of how we got here. It's how we got broke as a country, as a government, driven us into the ground, rewarding politicians for spending money. It's the Richard Shelby model that his protege will soon be doing, just running around standing in front of giant checks of somebody else's money that they get appropriated, and that's supposed to be a good thing. It's breaking us in half. And the slanderous ad campaigns that damage and harm good people, it does two things. It keeps good people from getting elected because it's unfair, but it also runs people away from running for office that we would love have run for office. Who wants that unfair anal exam? If you've got a good life and you've run a good business and you're taking care of your family, you're a good citizen in the community, and by merely putting your name on a ballot and showing any kind of critical mass, suddenly you can become Hitler with a few $100,000 on a TV ad. Who wants to do that? Except the hyper ambitious. And it's why we get the people we get. It's, in my estimation, not that everybody that runs is bad, clearly. I really like some of these candidates that are running. I think we've got a good, it's a rare election where we've got some really good candidates in a lot of these races. But the insidious among them, the Eric Swalwells, the self-aggrandizers, the desperately ambitious, they're the problem. And they don't mind the gauntlet. They don't mind the dirty jabs. They consider it a badge of honor. And then when they get there, they want to stay there and they'll do anything to stay there. And that's how our whole government gets compromised. It's our whole system from the very beginning, before anybody ever throws their hand up to be sworn in, is just a dishonest system. Anyway, enough of that rant. Work trucks. If you do honest work for a living and you need a truck, I don't think politicians need a work truck, do they? But honest people that haul things do. If you're running a business and you've got to get your services or your merchandise or whatever it is you make for a living to your clients, you need a good truck. They've got them downtown Birmingham at Work Trucks. Box trucks, flatbeds, everything in between. It's all done at Work Trucks. They're really, really good at what they do. And they just, they'll get you outfitted. If they don't have what you need in the way of a cargo van or passenger van, let them go find it for you. They'll go out and find one configured like you want it. Low miles, pre-owned is huge because you're not taking a depreciation hit like you would with a brand new one. Some of them are already outfitted for your industry. They back them with warranties to help you get financed. Bubba's a great guy. It's a great team down there. Y'all go see him. 3rd Avenue South, right around the corner from Birmingham Broker. It's Work Trucks. Now, if you want to see him online, get the phone number Check them out that way. Look at the inventory. It's TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com. Back here in a minute. All right, y'all. Express Oil Change has the neatest, I mean, they really do. It's the coolest promotion, I guess you would call it, fundraiser that they're running through the month of April. If you swing in there and get your oil change, they're going to give $1 of your oil change straight to Children's Hospital. How about that? They're always fairly priced. It's never taken me more than 10 minutes. Now, I start running the clock when I pull into the bay because if I'm sitting behind somebody, clearly they got to wrap up with them first. But generally, if I've got a little extra time and I'm getting close, I'll wheel in there. They've got locations all up and down the road between me and where I usually drive. And so it's so convenient, and I appreciate them just being there. Have some great conversations with those guys, too, while I'm sitting there getting my stuff done. Y'all go see them, and $1 of your money goes to a good cause. It's Express Oil Change. Find one near you. I think they got 67 locations, something crazy like that, all over Alabama. Changing oil and changing lives. Express Oil Change. man, we're going to start doing some phone calls, and I want to get on that. Do have an interesting thing that just popped up there I want to shove in here before I forget about it. So you got this guy that was accused of the J6 pipe bombing, and no one with a rational mind thinks this guy legitimately had the capacity to pull this off. I think his name is Brian Cole. I believe he's autistic. It's absurd, and he seems like a patsy. So he's got a preliminary hearing going on today. They hit him with some superseding charges to try to really pin him down. And out of nowhere, apparently in that hearing today, he decided to plead not guilty. In other words, they replaced the indictment. He's got a replea. And as opposed to going along with the government, he and his attorneys said, we're going to have a trial. The government was not expecting it, and it seemed like panic in the courtroom. We'll follow up on it. Something's fishy about that case. I'm just saying. All right, Jimmy DeGreek up next over on line 3. What do you know, Jimmy DeGreek?
Hey, I just left Craig down there, Birmingham broker, and Keith, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I left you a few more coins. I'm going to have to explain them to you sometime, but they're should be self-explanatory. One of them's a little better looking than the one that I had for your wife. I just digging through stuff, and I got to show you a picture. I went by a place the other day, and they sell foreign coins, and they sell them for $13 a pound. So,
good Lord.
No thanks.
Yeah,
I know. I'm trying to tell you, you got to cull through them to find a coin. It's just fun. Like I said, it's a hobby for me. And,
sure.
Anyway, Craig has got those, and he said you owe him a ride. I'm not sure what that means.
It's not personal. Now, I think he wants me to go riding on those electric motorcycles with him. They do a Thursday night ride
every Thursday night.
Yeah,
right.
and he wants me to come down here and ride with him one night, and I gotta get on that, but I just haven't been able to work it out with him. I'm excited about doing it though.
Well, I left the coins down there to give you incentive to go down there. He'll ride with you anytime, but
sure,
man.
They're
going tonight, as you know. And then one other thing, it's kind of fun that you got Gary Palmer right tomorrow.
Yeah, Gary's on. By the way, Gary Palmer, 6th District Congressman, Radio Town Hall, which means you guys get to ask most of the questions tomorrow. If he's not too boring, I told him you can't be boring, Gary. But if he's not too bad, we'll keep him on till 6 o'clock. If y'all are lighting him up, he's willing to do it. So I appreciate him doing it.
So, yeah, I went by Steve's earlier at the Alabama refinery and gold refinery, and I'm not picking on Steve. Just saying, they already had the good stuff put up. But my point is that. Gary doesn't need to go to the Cayman Islands. All he needs to do is go by Steve's and get a nice Rolex and get a special deal on a Rolex and advertise for Steve for through the campaign cycle. Then he can go back and Steve will buy it back from him at a fair price, and then we're all good. He can look cool during the campaign. But anyway, I love Gary. Unfortunately, I'm no longer in his district. They switched us out. I'm in Terry Sewell's district now, but she seems to be doing okay for what I was expecting.
Well, God bless you. The Supreme Court may change that any day now. Hey, Jimmy, I appreciate the call, buddy. Thanks for all the connections, too. Let me get Maria in here. I'm going to move quickly because I hadn't had a whole lot of time for calls today, and I want to get y'all in here. Maria, go.
Hello?
Maria, go, girl.
I heard your traffic report, but I didn't hear this one. I just left the Homewood area in 65 northbound at 31 in Hoover. Left lane, possibly the center lane as well. It's backed way up past 459.
Good Lord. All right, we'll keep up with that this afternoon. You're always good about the traffic heads up. Way to go, Maria. We appreciate you. All right. Let's get the top of the hour in here, and I'm going to play a little catch up. We got one more hour to go. Y'all bring it. We'll throw down on the phones. I'll get you the latest. Man, there's a couple things we haven't had a chance to get to yet, but that's just how we do it. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all hang on.